you. Yeah, so the record that I did, also insert album artwork here. Taj Mahal's the Natch'l Blues. I hope I'm saying that correct. So I don't really know a lot of Taj Mahal. Like I know the name, I know that he's like a staple in blues music. But this was kind of like my first stint into listening to him, besides Matt having one of his records. I believe you have one of his records that you used to play in college. So yeah, I really don't know too much about him. So like I won't really preface too much about like who he is, but I mean, I just really enjoyed this record. I found myself listening to it a lot as well. I don't know if these songs are covers of blues songs or if they're originals. But just there's a consistent vibe in the songs that I really, really enjoy. In the few of the tracks that really stood out to me, Karina, that song is really cool. I love like they're all these songs. I feel like I just want to like clap and like kind of like stomp my feet to. Like it's one of those things, and I feel like you could like almost sing them as a group as well in some of these songs too. Um, Another song that I really liked, you don't miss your water. That one's like really, really good as well. Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't really know, like I can't really like name like a lot of songs that I liked in this one, because it's like a lot of the songs are similar, but like I guess they stand out in a way. But yeah, I don't know. I'm like more interested to hear like what you guys thought of it. I don't know if anyone else is like heard a lot of Taj Mahal, or if you're like more entrenched in blues music, but like for me, this is like my first stint in it. Yeah, which I would love to hear what you guys thought.
I'll piggyback because I know a little bit about Taj Mahal.
Yeah, jump in.
I'm gonna jump in. Well, I think Taj Mahal, I feel like he is very rooted in blues music. You know, I mean, this is like the late '60s when this is coming out. It's like '68. So I mean, obviously, blues music is changing. Everything's going electric. You know, the blues is already kind of a thing of the past. You know, with rock and roll and everything. So I think like this is kind of a blues at the core album, but like it's a guy who's adding a lot to it, you know, like a lot of bands are, like the Rolling Stones or like the Beatles, or you know, I don't know, maybe the Beatles aren't a good example, but you know, a lot of artists at the time obviously were doing similar stuff. But yeah, I mean, I love this album. I'm a big Taj Mahal fan. I actually saw Taj Mahal open for the Rolling Stones at the United Center, which was crazy because like, can you imagine like seeing Taj Mahal at the United Center? It's like the most like ridiculous.
I'm jealous, man. Jealous.
Yeah, it was like hilarious. I was so excited. I was a big Taj Mahal fan. I was like, this is crazy. And he still got it. But yeah, and going to this album, this is his second album. And I think yeah, like you said, I think it has like a really good consistent vibe, kind of like laid back, kind of like loose, like and I think he's got a really tight band with him. My favorite tracks are She Caught the Caddy. And if you know the Blues Brothers cover the song, I actually think I like the Blues Brothers version better. But I still like love that song. It's so sick. And like Karina, the Cuckoo, Ain't That a Lot of Love, I think is such a cool song. It starts off with that bass line, like do 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 do, you know, and I like the clap, like a lot of cool clapping and stuff. Yeah, I think he kills it. I think like after this, he kind of went into like world music. He like moved to Hawaii for a while. You know, he's an interesting dude.
Yeah, I was gonna say like this is definitely different than a lot of his later stuff. Like when I think Taj Mahal, I almost think like my only real reference point is the record that Matt has. And as far as I can recall, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's got more kind of like almost like a dance feel to it. You know, it's kind of
the record. This is the record I have for the record.
This is the record. Oh, this is
for the record.
For the record.
Yeah.
Oh well, then shoot, I don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe I'm making something totally different. But when I think Taj Mahal, I think like almost what's a good like comparison? kind of like a more bluesy buzz Skaggs. And I don't know if that's accurate or not. Maybe it's just totally wrong, but that's what I think of. And so like this album was a really nice surprise for me. I love the blues, yeah, but I don't give it as much listening as I probably should. But it's really cool to hear like a blues album coming out as like what Matt was saying, like as the genre itself is sort of transitioning. It's a nice little jump off point for the rest of his career.
I kind of want to piggyback off of something you said specifically, Matt, which is that the album simultaneously feels very loose, but the band is very tight. And that sort of leads to this sort of constant sort of cool shuffle that the album has, where, you know, there's always a pulse, there's always, you know, somewhere you can clap, but everything always seems to be in, like, I wish Reed was here to sort of correct me on this, but it feels like everything's on like the upbeat or the downbeat, or it just sort of feels like everything's on a slightly different beat than you would necessarily expect. And that sort of leads to sort of that cool shuffling, sort of loose, sort of like hang time that seems to be in most of the songs. And I think that adds a lot of groove, you know, to the record, because, you know, blues, there's not a whole lot of room, I mean, in my understanding, to diverge. You know, it's a very sort of formulaic genre. So a lot of the differentiation is in the flavor that you bring to a blues album. So, you know, this album just has a ton of flavor. And it's really one of my favorite blues albums. I don't know a whole lot of Taj Mahal, because as you were saying, there's really two blues albums that I know of, and then it just sort of turns into world music, which is wild to me, because there's such good blues albums.
It feels unique.
You know,
it doesn't feel like every other blues album you've heard, you know?
No, not at all. And that's sort of what I'm getting at, is that, you know, the sort of the structures of blues are pretty, you know, they're pretty stapled, but this album has so much flavor that it feels fresh and new at a time when, you know, rock was sort of, you know, the main, you know, sort of dish being served. So yeah, I just love this album. It's definitely a repeat. I find myself coming back to it all the time. It's so good. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm going cracking up over here because I'm just imagining like a waiter, you know, white glove, kind of black tie waiter going, "Oh, monsieur, would you like a rock?"
Would you like the rock and roll? I will serve it to you.
Perhaps you like a hammer for your rock.
Maybe some world music if you want something spicy. Okay. We're gonna do. All right.
I'll jump in just to say I don't have too much to add on top of what everyone else has said, but I definitely really dug this album. I know after a couple of our earlier discussions, the blues was kind of hot on my mind, especially after that Black Keys album from the first discussion we did. And I remember someone saying, I think it was Jet, said that it just reminded them a lot of like any other classic blues record, but just new. And I kind of wanted to explore more of that genre and see. So this was kind of a nice adventure down that lane, I guess, to like see some more of that. One song that I do want to highlight was the track "I Ain't Gonna Let Nobody Steal My Jelly Roll." Yeah, I love that one so much.
Yeah,
it's so silly and it's great. It's a great track, great album. That's all I got though.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and piggybacking off of that, like since this was my first stint into blues, and like it being such a great album, I'm definitely gonna like bring more of that back. So hopefully better than the Black Keys record. At least how we talked about that.
Brutal.
Because,
it keeps coming back up. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Mason's not even here to defend himself.
Also, for the Hip Dad fans watching this, that's not why Mason isn't here today.
I like
we did not take him out of the club. He's still in.
We also didn't bully him into hiding, you know.
Yeah. We also
I don't know, man. He like, I'm really glad he gave us that EDM record last time. But I think last time he was on, what did he say? We'll go roll the clip, you know. But like he was like, "Oh man, like, you guys should take the music I listen to." I'm like, no. So maybe we did.
Yeah, you guys are gonna shit on this one too. Yeah.
But that's why we do this, to be exposed to different types of music. So I guess in terms of a rating, well, it's a classic, so I have to give it a 10 out of 10.
Classic.
It's a classic.
And you never heard the album before this. It's amazing.
And I've never heard the album before
Good
this,
luck.
but I have heard it several times. You know, I don't know. I'll give it a 10 out of 10. It was great. There's really nothing, like Matt said. I think I don't know how long he's played with this band, and I don't know if he brings the same bands on for each record, or if it's people that he's played with for a long time. But like, they sound really tight, but they also just sound like they've been playing for a long time together, because they can be so laid back and get right back into a groove with each other. And I think that's quintessentially what makes good bands, and it's what makes listening to an album more enjoyable, especially if there's a lot of instrumentals, which this album has. It's kind of the cornerstone of the record. So yeah, 10 out of 10. It was great. Yeah, should we pass it on to the next person? I will popcorn to James.
Nice. Blues following blues.